Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Woo! Live from Albany Med in all beautiful Capital District of upstate New York. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. I'm live here from my COVID prison, where I'm being lovingly taken care of by a bunch of Zoomers. I want to give a shout out.
Yeah, let's hear. Who's been looking after you over there?
First, I want to thank Lady Di, Eva, the Polish princess, Rachel Lunawis, Bobby Marchand, Damodar Priya, Mara, Kateri, Sachi Sutta. You guys have just, and then then I got this anonymous gift of tulips and coconut water and fruit. And I turned it into a whole altar on my windowsill, which was really nice. I would never buy flowers. I'm just not the flower buying guy, but someone bought flowers and it changes everything in the room. So I really want to thank everybody.
So you were mentioning it felt sterile yesterday.
Very sterile. Yeah, it is a little sterile. It's incredibly sterile. They give me a window and that's about it. And I have a little glimpse into some sunlight because there's a lot of buildings. So you don't even get a great view, but I'm grateful that I'm here. And
now you got flowers.
I was greeted this morning, it was going to be a good day today because I woke up with a male nurse who came in and he had all his layers of masks and stuff on, but I could tell he was Indian. And so I said, "What's your name?" And he said, "Chandan." I said, "Oh, Chandan. This is the way I want to wake up, get my blood taken by a guy named Chandan." And he saw my Lord Ram tattoo. And he started, and I say, "Yeah, Chandan, this is Lord Ram." He says, "I'm knowing Ram." He says, "Are you Krishna Bhakta?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Nepal." And then we had this whole conversation about Lord Muktinath and going to the Himalayas. And it was a really nice way to start my day, getting my blood taken by a Nepalese Brahmin.
Nice.
Yeah. I tell you, it's something about those Indians and Nepalese. It's like you dial into like Lord Ram or something like that, and they click into some other mode, it's so cool. It's so cool. They're like so deeply connected, like at the core of their being.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Actually, one of our others, Vin Vinodia, Vrajabhumi, he wrote to me today, but he asked me to extend his prayers to you. But he's also, a doctor that's worked in the COVID wards and all that. So he's here for you too, Raghu, if you need anything.
I feel loved and supported.
Great soul.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. And, you get a lot of realizations when you're sick, which go hand in hand with our study of the Bhagavatam.
Any you'd like to share?
Or
you want to hold? You want to still process them?
Yeah, there's like we were saying yesterday, like they're serious. There's the Bhagavatam takes care of our material life. It teaches us how to have a happier life while in this world by raising our consciousness. but it also is like this very like devastating thing where all the sweet shelters of our life are not ours,
Hmm.
like our family, our children, our home. That's not ours. And it's like a very stark reminder of the only thing you have is Krishna's lotus feet, and don't forget that. And again, the material world will bring you back to that point if you're taking any other shelter than that. So it's sort of like one of those stark realities, and then it brings you back to the material thing of, I'm going to plan my life, and I'm going to go to South America, and we're going to do our Wisdom of the Sages retreat. And then, you sort of like try to plan your material. What we're doing here is we're trying to make spiritual life a festival. We're trying to make it a party. We're trying to make it a culture. We're trying to make it so you can come in wherever you are in the world and sort of click in, have a tribe, have a posse, have a mission, have an offering. And that's how we like move in this world. We want communities to connect, where we take the obvious glue traps that are like attractive in this world, and we just replace it with, get yourself out of the center. That's not going to make you happy. Put Krishna at the center. And so that's what we're trying to do with Wisdom of the Sages. We try to make like a community like that where we see divinity as the center, and from that we find a little peace and a little reprieve. And that's what we're hoping to do with these retreats, with these trainings, with these pilgrimages and stuff like that, and with our lives. And then we just flow into that and hold hands with as many people as we can as we do it. And every now and then you get these like stark wake up calls, like, yep, this is what it's all about. This is also all temporary, by the way. Yes, it's a fun festival. Yes, it's a fun feast. And yes, this is a fun kirtan. And yes, everything could end in a moment.
And I'm gonna die.
and we're all wants to have a good time today, because we're all about to die. Yeah. So anyway, it's beautiful. And if it wasn't for God and Krishna, it's like the whole existence is quite depressing if you just look right behind the veil. It's like all you have to do is analyze life and history and study history. It's all sad, but I will say with Krishna in my life, it gives me so much hope of existence, and even hope even in non-existence. You know what I mean? Hope in like, yeah. And
The change of existence.
if Krishna wants to take everything away, okay, that's Krishna's plan, and Krishna's got a plan for me, and you can like really rest your heart and your mind in that. And I think that's important to have, especially as we, go one, get older, or two, you don't even have to get older to have like sinkholes, collapse right in front of you. You can be like 11 or 15 or 21 and go through some very serious challenges. So yeah, I feel really grateful today. In a good place, good people.
Good.
Cheers.
Cheers.
To my mystery fairy who brought me some coconut water.
You ready?
Yeah, all good on your side.
Yeah, everything's good. Yeah, just got word that I will be, and hopefully you will be, visiting London not too long from now, right?
Yeah. I got off the phone with Radhanath Swami, and he said I have to take it very, very, very
slow it down.
So there's going to be a new Raghunath. You're going to have to have to be the crazy one, and I'm going to be the Kaustubha now. We're going to switch roles. Listen, Kaustubha, I think you should hold back for London. Just breathe, be where you are. There's no need to go anywhere. It's all here.
Okay, but in any case, I will be going to London at the beginning of December to do some recording, to record some courses. But what it looks like for public programs, if that's even possible or not, we'll find out. But in any case, I'll be visiting. And you may be coming right behind me, right, at that time.
Maybe. I might just take it easy.
Maybe not.
There's a new Raghunath.
Okay.
And he's quite boring. Here's a new boring Raghunath.
All right, let's get into it. You ready?
Yeah. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, and to Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. A regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Vidam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Canto.
Oh, I don't know.
Are you? Do they have you drugged up over there? Tell me the truth. This new Raghunath, is it a drug Raghunath?
Yeah. Okay. Third canto.
That's right.
Chapter 25.
Correct.
Right again.
Text number 31.
Okay, great.
Maitreya speaks this verse.
Sri Maitreya said, after hearing the statement of his mother, Kapila could understand her purpose, and he became compassionate towards her because of being born of her body. He described the Sankhya system of philosophy, which is a combination of bhakti and mystic realization, as received by disciplic succession.
Okay.
So it's a bona fide system.
It's a bona fide system. Handed down.
Handed down.
Unchanged.
Yeah. It's not just some yoga teacher giving out their idea of, okay, you should try this. It's just like bona fide systems. Lord Kapila said.
I was saying it's interesting that, well, so we've seen his mother, Devahuti's, approached Kapila Dev, and in her demeanor, we've seen we can learn a lot about the demeanor of a disciple towards a guru. Right?
Sure. I like this point you made yesterday too. Like the guru, the disciple is always acting dumb in front of the guru.
Not exactly acting dumb.
Well, they're not.
But in a sense, yeah.
Well, there's a tendency just to just in the material world of how we relate to people, we're just always blowing up our own ego. Like, yeah, you should see what I did. Yeah, check out what I'm doing. Yeah. Even to our gurus, we're trying to brag. I catch myself bragging to my teach. And it's like, I've watched Radhanath Swami literally do psychic surgery on me. Just ignore me when I get into this, tell him about everything I'm doing. And he just looks away and drifts off in space as if I'm not even talking to him anymore. And it's not rude. It's a way of training me to get out of your stupid ego, Raghunath. And because the traditional way is you approach yourself as a fool.
Yeah.
Because when your cup is empty, you can receive. And you might even be, I'm not, but you might even be more intellectual or more an academic than your guru. Your guru might just be a simple village person, but you have to clear all the mundane knowledge out of the way just so the guru can drip in the actual wisdom. And this is a problem with an ego-driven culture where we're so insecure and feel so invalid that we constantly have to puff ourselves up just to hold the conversation so we don't collapse. But this culture it's very beautiful. And I think we've both seen it. Great, great souls putting themselves in very humble situations and appearing sort of as, oh, I know nothing, please instruct me. I'm very small. It's actually quite beautiful to see that culture. It just doesn't exist so much in the Western world, that type of humility.
Yeah, even we see it there. I mentioned one example from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the biography of Sri Chaitanya, which was how Rupa Goswami approached Sri Chaitanya. I'm sorry, how Sanatana Goswami approached Sri Chaitanya, who was, Sanatana Goswami. We spoke about him some weeks ago when we had Chadaratma Das Prabhu as a guest. Remember when we interviewed him? He spoke
Yeah.
about the different Goswamis. So he was an incredibly brilliant political leader, scholar, yogi, all of these things. Like
He had it all.
he had it all on on a super high level.
The most qualified people you could meet.
Yeah. But when he approached Sri Chaitanya, he was like, "I'm a fool. I don't even know who I am. Instruct me. Instruct me." Now we also see that there's another example in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, a very interesting one, and that's for Sri Chaitanya himself, right? Who is like Krishna incarnate. Remember when there's an incredible passage in that chapter in that book, which describes that Sri Chaitanya goes to Varanasi, right? And Varanasi was like the stronghold, you could say. It was like, a stronghold, maybe the stronghold, right, of like the impersonalist yogi philosophers, right?
Yeah.
And they were headed up by one sannyasi, one renunciate named Prakashananda Saraswati. And he was the head of like hundreds and hundreds of, there are like hundreds of followers of him. These were like hardcore Mayavadi renunciates. Their goal in life was not bhakti, and they viewed bhakti as like sentimental, like some kind of sentimental things. Ultimately, maybe it can help you advance a little bit in your spiritual life, but sooner or later you got to drop all that business and get serious about life and analyze it with like we were talking yesterday, with like a kind of a cold analysis. Let go of all emotions and free yourself from the mind and so on, achieve mukti or liberation. And when these sannyasis, Sri Chaitanya kind of came to town, and when he was being observed in kirtan, and when Sri Chaitanya would do kirtan, he would cry, because his emotions
Sri
were
Chaitanya's
so intense.
coming to town.
Okay, so they would see him, and they would think they could see that he was special, right? I mean, he had some kind of, like, we talk about yoga glow. He had like divine glow,
Sure.
But they were like, but why is this sannyasi? And he's young too, this young sannyasi is like, he seems to be not following properly because he's engaged in these emotional songs of love and so on. He should be more like us. And they were criticizing him. And some of Sri Chaitanya's followers were like hurt by that criticism, and they went to him and they expressed what was going on. So Sri Chaitanya went into the sangha of those sannyasis, Prakashananda Saraswati's sannyasis. And he kind of sat down like outside, like where everyone put their shoes and everything, And so he wasn't even like, it was a very humble way to position himself.
Sure.
And then Prakashananda Saraswati saw him, and again he could recognize this person is glowing. He's not an ordinary being. He's someone special, very special. But at the same time, it's like, why? And so he picked him up by the hand and said, "Come sit down with us." And then he began to question, why do you engage the way you do? Why don't you study Vedanta with us and renounce everything, etc.? And he said, well, my guru told me I was a fool, right? He said, my guru told me that I was a fool, and that I should simply chant this mantra, and there's a whole explanation of how he understood Vedanta with great humility from his guru, and churned out of it for him, that the essence of it all was the chanting of the Maha Mantra. And then he goes on to blow their minds with his presentation of Vedanta, and they all just get knocked out, and they're just like, whoa, we've been engaged in this for so long, and it's been like we're just like eating like dry, tasteless kind of cakes, and but the way that you've explained it now we're understanding it so much more clearly. It's like nectar. It's like you're pouring nectar into our ears. But the point being is that Sri Chaitanya himself, who is a Krishna incarnate, he presents himself as a fool before his guru, right? So yeah, it's in that relationship, one is meant to open oneself up to be critiqued, open oneself up to have one's flaws and shortcomings revealed, and try to understand even the most simple truths, from a perspective of someone that you feel is seeing it more clearly than yourself. So Devahuti here, she approached Kapila Dev that way, with great humility. She was brilliant. She was a brilliant yogini, but she approached with great humility, and he's responding to that humility. It also mentions here, it's interesting. It says he became compassionate towards her because of being born from her body. Which also, on one hand seems to be like a material consideration, right? Like why, when we really come to a higher level of understanding, aren't all these bodily considerations dropped? And why should I be more compassionate to someone in my own family?
Right.
But perhaps it's also indicating that, just from a dharmic point of view, that being born in a certain family, we it's kind of like God places us in a certain position, and we're meant to care for those first in one sense, I mean, not that can't be transcended, but it's just, I thought that was an interesting detail.
It is. It's also interesting how, suppose I have a bunch of cuts on my body and glass and, some shrapnel in my body, and I'm wearing layers of coats. Like the doctor can't help me unless I reveal and start to take off these layers. So in the same way, we walking around with this pretense, this bravado, this persona, and it keeps me covered. And until I can actually shed those layers in front of the gurus, in front of the teachers, in front of the Vaishnavas, and I'm not saying everybody either, people that you trust, people that you let into your life as your healers, your teachers, we're not going to get better. I mean, we can impress the status quo in a community of devotees, but if we actually want to get better, we really have to have these people in our life that we can really just disrobe and say, listen, I don't know anything. I know A, B, C, and D, but that's not what I really need to know. What can you see in me? What can you heal me? Or else what we do is we create a very nice society of people following even the Hare Krishna status quo, but there won't be any real healing going on. We need these people in our life that we can share to. What am I going to do? I'm in this conflict right now. I don't know how to handle it. I have some resentment still in my heart. I have some anger in my heart. I'm hurt from
really just any kind of suffering, right? In other words, the evidence that we don't have our act together is that we're suffering. Right? That we're suffering mentally, even physically, but the fact that we're suffering, that the circumstances of our lives cause us anxiety, that's the evidence that we have not yet understood things clearly. And so therefore, even a brilliant scholar can stand before a guru and say, help me, I don't know anything, I'm still suffering. I need you to help me understand how to see things correctly, to end my suffering. Okay.
Yeah, it's beautiful. We need that. And if you don't have that, it's being sent to you. You're on the list. You should feel that. You should feel like you're on Krishna's list. And sometimes it just appears like Krishna is a little absent, or he's a little bit, you get the out of the office reply from Krishna. Krishna, I'm praying. Come on. Krishna's out of the office till Tuesday. Hold those prayers. But Krishna's not. And don't mistake Krishna's not immediate reply that you've been abandoned. It's all like percolating in there, and the right people are being sent to you at the right moment when you need them. And it just doesn't necessarily happen immediately, although it can. But we're not neglected, not whatsoever. There's always messengers getting sent to us. I'm firmly convinced of that.
All right, well, let's hear the next message. Text 32.
The next message. All righty. Lord Kapila said, the senses are symbolic representations of the demigods, and their natural inclination is to work under the direction of Vedic injunction. Interesting. That's their natural inclination.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to think my senses naturally want to do whatever the hell they want to do. I think that's very natural. I feel like doing this because I'm feeling crazy. And I think that's natural. And the funny thing is, that's unnatural. It's just like having a Ferrari and just saying, I'm just going to do donuts in the parking lot, because that's not what Ferraris do. You know, as the senses are representatives of the demigods, so the mind is the representative of the supreme personality of Godhead. The mind's natural duty is to serve. When that service spirit is engaged in devotional service to the personality of Godhead without any motive, that is far better even than salvation.
So there's a lot here, a lot to unpack here. The senses are symbolic representations of the demigods, and their natural inclination is to work on the direction of the Vedic injunctions. As the senses are representatives of the demigods, so the mind is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in a sense, what's happening here is Kapil Dev's asking Devahuti to slow down. Like she said, explain this whole yoga system to me. So he's saying, okay, you know what? It begins by kind of, here's the analysis, right? Here's the Sankhya he's talking about. Let's analyze. Slow down for a second. Think about how you're situated, right? How you're situated within your own body, and how your own body is situated within the universe. And, normally we just walk around thinking that this body is me. I'm seeing, I'm tasting, I'm touching, I'm experiencing, I'm feeling these things. He's saying, actually step back a little bit and look and see that actually you're connected to equipment. This equipment's not you, but you are kind of like plugged into different equipment. The eyes are part of that equipment. The ears are part of that equipment. The tactile sense is part of that equipment, and you're kind of plugged into it. And then you have a mind that you also see that where all that information is gathered. So he's saying, just as the demigods are all kind of instrumental or servants of Lord Vishnu, that's macro, right? And then on the micro level, that's happening within your own body. Your mind is like Lord Vishnu, and your senses are like the devas, which are meant to serve Lord Vishnu. And really, there's something very interesting here, is that the devas, it's, we read back in the second canto when creation was being described. It was described that even before all the bodies of people were created, the senses and the sense objects were created, as well as the devas, the demigods that were meant to control those senses. And right. This is the way Kapil Dev's trying to get Devahuti to think right now. Let's step back and let's analyze our circumstances again, how we're situated within the body, and how the body is situated within the world or in the universe, and then let's look at the macro and the micro, and begin to feel how we're separate from it, how it's out of control, how it needs to be brought under control. But you know what? I was trying to think of an analogy, because we think. It's you ever use your computer, right? And you say you start looking for something, like you're shopping for something, right?
Yeah.
Like say you need to buy a new coat or something like that. When winter's coming around, I need a new coat.
Yeah.
And so you do a little surfing, and you see what you can find a deal out there. And then you go to your Facebook page, and then suddenly like all these things about winter coats are popping up in your feed.
Yeah, what's that about?
Right? And then and sometimes things like that happen. Like we kind of know that that's going to happen now, right? Like.
Right.
But sometimes really weird things happen. You're like, hold it. How did they? I was only talking about that or something like that, and the computer seems to be.
Yeah, it's getting weirder, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's getting weirder.
And so, and that seems like creepy to us. That like, hold it. Somebody's I didn't think I was being monitored, but I'm being monitored. Right. And so what's being said here, in a sense, is that all our senses are monitored by the devas. Like what we see. The sense
This isn't the Patriot Act. You've been monitored for millennia.
That's right. It's like we've always been monitored. So just like the eyes, there's a deva for the eyes, for sight, and that's you know who the deva is for sight.
No.
For the eyes, it's the sun. Surya, the god of the sun. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because you need light to see. And that deva is, in a sense, like you could say, kind of facilitates that whole process of sight. Kind of allows the sense of sight to operate, but also monitors that sense, right? Knows what we're seeing, and is sending that data to Vishnu, just as the eyes send data to the mind, right? So you got the macro and the micro going on. What I see, it's all being recorded. It's all being monitored. And Vishnu is kind of aware of it all through the agency of the devas. And so similarly, what I touch, what I taste, what I smell, and the activities of the mind, it's all being monitored. And so he's saying here, I'll read it again, the senses are symbolic representations of the demigods. There's a demigod of the sun, which is the god of sight, and that's represented in my body as the eyes. Right? And their natural inclination is to work on the direction of Vishnu, just as the devas naturally serve Lord Vishnu. So our senses are naturally meant to serve Lord Vishnu as well, right? It's like it's what they're designed to do, but we're taking that equipment and we're running around doing something else with it. And as the senses are representatives of the demigods, so the mind is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that's Lord Vishnu. The mind's natural duty is to serve. When that service spirit is now we're getting to the, you see, we talked about, I think it was Ariel who mentioned yesterday about studying Sankhya philosophy and so on. When we get it from the original Kapila, he's never separating it from bhakti. So he says, when that service spirit, the service of the senses, the service of the mind, is engaged in devotional service to the personality of Godhead, without any motive, and that's what defines bhakti, right? I'm not doing it for the things of this world. I'm not doing it even to escape the sufferings of this world, but it's actually done out of love, right? So when the service spirit is engaged in devotional service to the personality of Godhead without any motive. Now this is key. This is important. It says that is far better even than salvation, right? So like, what is salvation? Like the freedom from suffering, you could say, right? Right. Or we could say mukti, what's commonly pursued in Vedanta, what's commonly pursued by a certain category of yogis, seen as like the goal.
One of the goals of the yoga system.
Yeah, and so again, the whole Bhagavatam itself, it's largely dedicated to helping us understand this. That again, that Vyasadeva created so many books with so many teachings on so many different levels. One could read the Upanishads and easily come to the conclusion that the goal of this is to become free from suffering, lose my own individuality, merge into the oneness, and experience everlasting peace.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Especially when you're
I'm converted.
Especially when you're in the hospital, right? But he's saying that actually is not. It's not. Well, I'll read it again. He says, when one serves, when one reconnects with that divine source in the mood of service, and when it has no motive, it means it's done purely out of love. Then that is far better, even than salvation.
It feels good though, right? Salvation.
Well, it does for a while.
It feels like, oh man, this is so good.
Well, so we can use the example
of the material world.
Well, imagine, again, it's like saying, like, if we said to Mara's been working hard, she had a big wedding this weekend, just nonstop. You got that staff, then always having to correct the staff because they're talking all kinds of nonsense in the kitchen, and she's got to get heavy sometimes, and
chops them apart.
Yeah, it creates stress. But then if someone says, Mara, I got a ticket for you to go to a private, tropical island.
Club Med.
Not even Club Med. It's like there's nobody there to bother you. It's like complete peace. Even you go to Club Med, like there's other people around, right?
Yeah.
And so she goes to that private island, and she's all alone, and she's like, and there's a beautiful beach, and there's this peace. It's like, oh man, that's just like you're saying. It feels really good. Right, and she'll enjoy that. But after some time, she'll be like, "Well, where is everybody? Like I need someone to share this with." There's a certain emptiness sets in, because by nature we are designed to love.
Sorry, Mara.
we would have done it for you, but we know it wouldn't be good.
We can test it out if we need to.
No.
Send me. We'll see how long I last.
We can see how long I last. Test
it. She seems to like salvation.
Okay, so here it says that again. Another point mentioned here is that there's a natural inclination the natural inclination is to work under the direction of the Vedic injunctions. So there's a guidebook to it all, right? We're given this equipment, we're plugged into it, just like when you get your computer and you get like you got all that equipment, right? You got the eyes are the camera, the ears are the microphone, the voice is the speaker. You got your computer, you got all of its equipment, and then you got a guidebook that helps you understand how to use it. What to speak of if you want to use it for a particular purpose, right? Like say, I want to, create a website, or I want to create a podcast, or I want, there's guidebooks to help you understand how to achieve that purpose. And that's what the Vedic injunctions are for, to get you moving in the right direction. When we disconnect the senses from it all, and we say, it's almost like, the way that you have like these telephones and they have the lock on them, right?
Yeah.
And you say, I want to break the lock. It's kind of like it was designed for a particular purpose, and then you want to say, I want to break free of that. But once you break free of that, you're kind of like your warranty's done, right?
Yeah.
It's like you kind of stepped outside of the. Maybe it's not the best analogy because we might want to do that, but here the idea is that I want to break my warranty. Like I've got happiness, I've got satisfaction, I've got through my connection to the divine. I want to break it, and I want to engage this equipment in the way that it wasn't designed to be used for my own selfish purpose. That's when our suffering begins. So even though we may be, going back to our earlier discussion, even though we may be a brilliant scholar, even we may be like an accomplished yogi, if we haven't gotten the message that my well-being lies in reconnecting with that source, then we do suffer. And so all the Vedic literature is ultimately meant to point us back that way. Here we see, let's see, what we've read in the Bhagavatam so far, where the same point is coming up. We've seen in Sukadeva Goswami, who had achieved mukti, but had developed an increasing taste for the pastimes of Krishna, that bhakti is like the completion, which is beyond mukti, right? Yeah. We saw it again with the four Kumars, and there were these sages.
Vyasadeva himself.
Vyasadeva himself. Yeah, we see it again and again. Here that message is being shared again, where Kapila, Lord Vishnu himself is coming and explaining this all. He's the one that's giving us this system of analysis, which is which is commonly used to try to find that salvation or that peace or that mukti. And he's saying right off the beginning that if you engage this type of discernment in the context of bhakti, well, then that's far better than salvation, right? When you reconnect with your source, that's far better than salvation.
So all brings us back to Sweet Baby Krishna readings. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It really goes back there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It all comes full circle to Sweet Baby Krishna. That's what Mara did. She came over to the hospital yesterday and she just read Sweet Baby Krishna to me. And it was like, it was sort of like what the soul really needed, Yeah. It wasn't like we were on a pristine beach. It wasn't like it was a pristine atmosphere. It was just her reading from a book and me sitting in a chair, and it was quite blissful. And
it takes you straight to Vrindavan.
It takes you, really does, right, Mara?
Yeah.
I remember once my guru had he was recovering from surgery, and he was kind of sidelined for a long time, and he had to have a catheter and all this stuff, it was a lot to go through. And so he was, just sitting in his room. This was in Dallas, and just recuperating. And I was sitting there alone in the room with him. I might have actually been reading Bhagavatam to him, or maybe we were chanting together. I forget. But he said, just by hearing Bhagavatam, by chanting, I'm sitting in Vrindavan right now, and he meant it. Like he was really feeling it. And then some cop car drove by.
Yeah.
With the siren going, and he said, and there's the peacocks. But it's true. It's like when we develop that taste for Bhagavatam, it doesn't matter what you can be in that sterile atmosphere of a hospital. It's a place of suffering. It's sterile, and it's nothing but sterility and suffering around. It's in one sense the opposite of Vrindavan. That spiritual holy place, which is so earthy, and so vibrant and so colorful. full of flavors and full of sensual experience and full of happiness, and and you read Bhagavatam, and even though you're sitting somewhere in some far distant place in the world, someplace so far away from that central, where that place where everything is centered around Krishna, but you just it's a lifeline, and
It's a lifeline.
you connect to that spiritual energy, and you feel it. You feel the same energy even though you're so far away.
Reminds me of Parjanya Maharaj. Remember him?
Oh yeah, Parjanya Maharaj
In
in upstate New
Gujarati.
York,
Yeah, when our
Patel
band
Motel.
yeah, when our band used to go on tour, there was a series of hotels we called Patel Motels because a lot of Indians from Gujarat are called Patel, and they own hotels or motels. And it's usually a simple family business where the husband and the wife clean the rooms, and they have motels, and they have a little house. And so whenever the band would go on tour, we'd stay at these Indian hotels, and they'd invite us, and they'd cook us this incredible Gujarati feast.
They would put you up for free. They would cook for you.
Yeah, they'd put you up for free. It was very sweet. And I remember one time just being with him in his humble home in the hotel, in the motel. And I just appreciated, like, here's like a man, he's probably 65 or something. His kids are grown up, and this is his retirement. And he's just sitting reading the Bhagavatam all day long. And the man was just blissful. He was like transported into another world. And I was thinking, how can I organize my life this easily where I can just read the Bhagavatam and sit and he could just read to me all day long. And it was one of those moments as like a 23-year-old man witnessing a 65-year-old person who's definitely mixed up in the material world and not really probably that successful, but you could tell he's got this satisfaction of the heart and a joy into his heart. And I was thinking, oh, how beautiful. I want to develop that as I get older as well. Another thing through all my twists and turns that have been going on in my life in the last couple of weeks is I get some good advice. So Satchidananda Maharaj, he left me such a beautiful message the other day that said, he said, you just have to go on pilgrimage in your mind. After giving some like little health tips and chewing ginger and things like that, but
serve the body first, but then the soul.
Yeah, but then he started saying you got to start going on pilgrimage in your mind. And so I've been doing that, and it transports you. And I think that's a part of also the importance of pilgrimage is you carve in stone these places in your mind. They leave impressions with us, and we always revisit them in our minds, especially when we're going through some tribulations or some pain, and we can go back to those places where we felt a sense of connection and security and where things make sense. I think that's the beauty of pilgrimage is you go to holy places, speak holy words, hear from holy people, take holy bath, have holy darshan. And it's like a time in life where things are right. Everything is right now. You're hearing truth 24/7. There's no commercial breaks. You're off your phone and you're just, and to the degree that you can really just consume spirit, that stays with you and it sort of like freezes in your consciousness and you bring that with you wherever you go. And, to this day, I think people are affected by it. I think even Indians in America, growing up in America, they have these samskaras from their parents bringing them to holy places in their childhood. Or a lot of us, I'm looking out at the people out there and who've been to India with me and stuff like that. We're frozen in these places, but we'll never forget. And we can always like travel back there. And I think it's important. Radhanath Swami told me on my birthday last year, we were driving to Bombay together in a taxi. And he said, Radhanath Swami was in India before he met the devotees. Like there was no Hare Krishna temple of ISKCON in Vrindavan, but he was living in Vrindavan on the banks of the Yamuna. And he told me that at a certain point in his life, he moved into an ashram in America. And he said he would, in his mind, every day, walk around Vrindavan and visit different temples and holy places and bow down. And to keep that in your mind on a regular basis, it's very, very powerful meditation. And you can always just go there. And when I see like the Govardhan Eco Village, which is in one sense, it's like a little Vrindavan Disneyland almost. He's recreated Vrindavan as it was in the 50s and 60s on this beautiful piece of property outside of in Maharashtra. But it's almost like being there, and it's actually for our meditation, so we can go into those places and meditate on those places. And we've had that experience, at the GEV, that where we can like transport ourselves. And we could do that wherever. If you have a river near you, that's the Yamuna River now, or that's the Ganga now. And if you have a little trail you like to walk around, that is your parikrama marg, your trail around holy places. And you can recreate those in your mind and bring your mind to these places on a regular basis.
That goes back to what we've been reading, right? Where the senses, they're sending information to the mind, right? But it's all meant to be done in the service of Vishnu or of Krishna. So when you go, this is how pilgrimage works, right? You go there with someone that can open your senses up to it and open your mind up to understanding it in the right way. And then everything that you see and everything that you hear and everything that you smell and everything you taste and everything you touch, it's registering information in the mind. And there's something about it that's satisfying and pleasing and purifying. And those samskars go very deep, particularly if you're with someone that can help make it deep for you, Right. And then it's a fact. Then it really doesn't matter whether you're there or not, as long as you can re-experience it in your mind. And so that can be done, that can be done by, again, picking up the book and reading it, but it can be as simple as just walking around Vrindavan in your mind, visiting each place as you go, offering your obeisances in your mind as you go, chanting as you go through it. And that's just as good. You're there. Your body's in one dimension, but your mind is back in that spiritual dimension. And we call these places yoga peats, right? It's where the spiritual realm connects with the material realm. It's like the what do they call that? Like a
vortex.
Like a vortex, yeah, like a vortex. And so you can go right to that vortex. And we say it almost like it sounds, okay, you're speaking entirely facetiously or something like that. But really, it's not. Really, it's more real than what we consider real. You've connected to that spiritual energy, just through the memory and engaging that memory and being there. And you're really as good as there, you are there. You know what? I watched
it's more real, because what happens is by your Dham guru, or the gurus who actually introduce you to those holy places, they've allowed you entrance into what most people can't even see. To them, it's just sort of like a place. And they've given you sort of special insider's view, right? Insider's backstage view of what it's actually, what you can experience there. And so, yeah, I think that's the blessing of having this parampara that we're part of right now, that everybody listening is part of, that they're getting introduced to like these inner chambers. They're not just going to go hitchhike around India and say, okay, that's a cool piece of architecture. Oh, look at that chandelier. Who cares? They're actually going to get some entrance. And the entrance comes from the Shabda Brahman, the spiritual sound that they're hearing in these holy places, and that they're recognizing, oh, this is Mother Ganga, this is Mother Yamuna, this is the yoga pit, this is what we do when we come here, this is how we bathe, this is how we worship, this is how we serve. I'm sorry, go on.
Well, when I was coming home from California on the plane, I watched that film, The Matrix, which I hadn't seen in a very long time.
I've never watched it beginning to end. I've always fallen asleep.
Okay.
Pretty pathetic, isn't it?
Well, there's that whole idea that, just like we're reading today, is that you're given this network of senses, right? They were plugged in to virtual reality. The whole thing, he kind of has to wake up, and then they pull that thing out of the back of his neck and disconnect him from all that equipment, And he's meant to realize as he's moving through the matrix how this is an artificial realm and how there's a real realm beyond it. And but it all had to do with like Neo. That was his name, right? Neo, the protagonist in it.
Remember.
Yeah, the Keanu Reeves character, the main character.
Hmm.
He's got to become convinced, not just even intellectually, but like deeper and deeper and deeper, have complete faith that he's situated in a real realm, but moving through an artificial realm. And then the more that he gets that, the deeper that he gets that, then he can transcend the artificial realm.
Hmm.
And so it's similar with us, right? In other words, you can be sitting in a hospital in Albany, but your mind can be deeply engaged in Vrindavan, which is the vortex to the spiritual realm. It is the spiritual realm manifest in the material realm. So you can bring your mind to the spiritual realm and actually be there and actually experience the what it is to be there, fully. And really, it doesn't matter where your body is sitting anymore.
That's a great practice.
It's a great practice.
That's a great practice to see if you can hold. I mean, I know this morning I did my Manasa Puja. I sat there in my bed, and the mind, just like japa, your mind wanders around, and you got to catch it. You got to bring it back. But it's in that practice, if you can really refine that practice of going on pilgrimage or doing your puja or doing some type of dham seva in your mind. If you can really capture that crystal clear, you have the ability to bring that with you wherever you go. Like such a gift. It's such a great workout, mental workout.
When you do your that pilgrimage, you're circumambulating Panch Krosh Vrindavan?
Me?
Yeah.
It depends. I'll take you sometime.
Okay.
I'll take you on a little trip in my mind.
We got to do that. Maybe that should be one Sweet Baby Krishna where you just take us through Vrindavan.
Oh, that's a good idea.
All right.
That's a good idea. I tried to do Sweet Baby Krishna last night. We had to cancel. I think it was a little.
I think you gotta concentrate on your. What did Rana Swami tell you about?
Raghu, you got to chill out.
You gotta chill out.
Yeah, because COVID can come back hard and swift.
All right.
So even if you're feeling better,
he said you had to be like a Mauni Baba, right?
Yeah, he said stop talking so much in a very sweet way.
In a very sweet way. Yeah. I think you gotta. I think the show itself is that you exert a lot of energy doing it.
Yeah,
2 a day, I think, is a bit much. You do, yeah. You do. All right, so maybe we got to slow it down and end it right there and see if we've got any
takeaways, Maraji?
Any takeaways?
We do. We have a lot of takeaways today.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Ever wonder where do those takeaways come from? Okay.
I think you'll like some of these, Raghu. Bhagavatam raises our consciousness and reminds us that Krishna is our only shelter.
Yeah.
Replace the glue
Yeah.
traps and put divinity at the center.
Glue traps.
Glue traps. Love that.
And pull back the veil and it's all tragic without Krishna.
It's all tragic.
Drop your ego for your guru to fill your cup.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Open yourself up to criticism from self-realized souls.
Got to do it.
I don't remember that one exactly, but yeah.
Do you have to do it?
Not really criticism. It's inviting critique. Yeah, inviting correction. Criticism means they're just like digging into you. We don't do that.
Constructive
Yeah,
criticism.
constructive. The evidence that we don't have it together is revealed in our suffering.
The evidence. Who said that? Did you say
I
that?
said that.
you.
Yeah. That's the evidence, right? That we suffer. That's
Yeah.
the evidence that we need someone to tell us what's what.
Okay.
Bhakti is beyond mukti. Service over salvation.
Oh, service over salvation.
That's good, right?
Yeah.
My well-being lies in reconnecting with source.
Don't wear that T-shirt in Varanasi.
Do wear it in Varanasi.
You wear it in that? Okay.
And go on a mind pilgrimage anytime to reconnect.
Boom.
Boom. That was good. All right, made it. Phew. An hour. Thanks everybody joining us that I didn't say good morning to. I saw Aditi's here somewhere poking around.
Aditi.
Wow.
And Ashley O'Hara. What? And baby Mila. Yeah. TJ Davis is here. What the heck? Parmananda Prabhu. We've got all the stars are out today. The Polish princess is here. Isabella Court. Oh, this is Athena. When Athena's here, things are getting magical. Aditi, look at Aditi. She's smiling and
Where's
blissful.
Aditi? Where's Aditi? I can't find her.
Henry in the back. Rajasundari Radha, that blissful lady.
I see Aditi now.